hey crafty people, come on in and let's find out which craft we're doing today. Okay, for the brim of the hat, I'm going to use the same fabric for the top part of the brim as well as the under part of the brim. Now, according to the instructions, we have to place the brim template on the fold of the fabric. So this is what I like to do. I will grab this by the salvage edges, pull it straight up so that it is in half, lay it down on the table. I'll open it up. I'll take the first side salvage edge and fold it, placing the salvage edge in the middle of the fabric. Straighten that out as best I can for now. And then I'll take the other side, the salvage edge, and I'm going to place the salvage edge directly on top of the first one that I folded over. Okay, and then I'm going to clip these together. Then I will take this over to my ironing station. I'll give it a good press. So when that's pressed, then I'll bring it back to my cutting station. I'll take the template and put the flat side of the template on the fold, and then I will cut the outer piece and the inner piece. And I'll flip it over, again putting the template flat side on the fold, and repeat the cut. I'll do the top side and then the inner side. Okay, so for the cone, I chose two fabrics. The lining is going to be the same fabric as the brim. However, the outer piece of the cone is going to be this decorative Halloween fabric that I just think is so cute. It's not directional, so I don't have to worry too much about how I cut it. But to cut it, what I did is I pulled enough off of the bolt that when folded over, I could place the template on top and the fabric would be larger than the template itself. To do the cutting following the instructions, I placed the longest part of the template on the fold of the fabric and then trimmed around. To put all the pieces together, I put the right sides together of the brim and I sewed a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around the outside. Turned the fabric, I turned it inside out, and then I decided that I wanted to add a wire so that the recipient could bend it in a fun way. And I cut the wire to the length that I needed, and then I put the two ends together by using a small piece of white duct tape. I wanted white so that it didn't show through the fabric. And it has to be a small piece because when you wrap it around, you don't want a lot of bulk because that will also show through. So I wrapped it as tightly as I could, put it inside, and then I pushed it all the way around the outer rim of the inside of the brim. And then I roughly cut a piece of double-sided fusible interfacing just to give it a little bit more structure, and then I gave it a good press. For sewing the cone pieces, I'd used the same 1/4 inch seam allowance. I used a leader so that the corner piece of the cone did not get stuck into the feed dogs when I was running it through. For the lining, I used the same 1/4 inch seam allowance, but I also decided to add another piece of wire into the cone of the hat so that the recipient could bend that as well if they wanted to. So to put that into the seam, I used a zigzag stitch all the way around down so that it would catch both sides of the wire, and then I sewed back and forth at the bottom to create a pocket so that the wire wouldn't slide through. Now, attaching it to the brim was another whole big fiasco. I had to fight to try and get the two ends together, and I had to fight it because of the wire that I added and the fusible interfacing. Both made it difficult to put the rim, the inner rim of the hat, around the arm of the sewing machine. To help with that, I ended up taking my sewing machine and sliding it all the way over to the edge of the table with just a little bit, just a tad hanging off, so that way the brim of the hat could go lower than the table, and that made it just a little tiny bit easier to get it around. But let's just say when it was done and I looked at it, there is another voice that pops up into my head. We all have one. This one I call Judgy. Judgy comes out and critiques all of my work, no matter which craft I'm doing. And Judgy's not always nice.
Are you out of your seam ripping mind? Guilty!
So I had to call up another person. Most people call their seam ripper Jack. I call mine Dirk. After Dirk did his thing, my second attempt was a little bit better, but still not quite what Judgy would allow me to say was a success. It did kind of look a little bit like a crime scene, so to kind of cover that up, I created a band, almost like a binding strip, and then I sewed that to the inside of the brim. Now for the outer side, I wanted to give it a little bit more flair, so I added some florals to the outside. And to put them, when I put them down at the base of the cone, and I had to cut a little slit in the outer piece of the cone, and then I bent the stems of the florals so that they curved slightly, and then I just kind of tucked them in around the base of the cone. And I wanted to make sure that you don't cut through the lining piece, because nobody wants a plastic stem scraping the inside of their head. Once that was done, I secured it with some hot glue, and I stitched just a couple of stitches to kind of close up the loop, and then I used some hot glue. You could just use hot glue instead of putting it in. You could cut the florals off of the stem altogether and just kind of use some hot glue and tack them down that way. But now that it's done, I have decided that this is not something that I'm going to give to my friend, which was what this project was supposed to be. But adding that binding piece on the inner rim of the hat made it a little bit smaller, and I think it's just going to be a little too tight to fit their head. Now, of course, I have a jumbo head, but my friend, she does not. She has a normal head. But I still wanted to give it just a little bit more room and comfort, because when you're at a Halloween party, if she parties like me, which she does, You're there for a little while. And nobody wants, that red ring around their forehead when they take the hat off at night. So what I'm going to do is keep this one for decor in my house. I will probably put it either on my dining room table as the centerpiece, or I may actually put it on coffee table with some battery operated candles and maybe a little bit of spider webs around it. So it's not going to go to waste. But I do have, since it's the end of April, beginning of May, I have a little bit of time till Halloween, so I can make another one between now and then. But anyway, I want you to see these pictures of the final product, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you give this a try, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, crafty friends. So that's all the crafting we have for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you come back again to find out which craft we're gonna do. Bye, crafty people.